What's going on, guys? Jake Verdon Tech here, and today we're going to be talking about some expansion storage options for your next generation, either Xbox Series S or Series X. So I purchased the Xbox Series S about a month ago, and I've done a couple videos related to it, and it's been a great console so far, but we're going to kind of talk about the elephant in the room when it comes to this console, and one of the major complaints when it comes to the Xbox Series S, and that is the onboard storage when you purchase it. So the Xbox Series S comes with a 512GB SSD, and with the operating system, after that storage is accounted for, you get about 360 gigs of leftover space for your games, apps, and video storage, whatever else you might store on your Xbox, which isn't much, especially with the size of the games on the market today. With updates, they're continuously growing, even though developers say they're doing everything they can to make sure these games don't get too big. They're still taking up a lot of hard drive space, and the 360 gigs that the Series S comes with definitely gets taken up pretty quickly. So as far as my needs go when it comes to storage on my Xbox, I usually haven't had a huge library of titles I've needed to store. But with some of the upcoming titles that I'm very interested in, I have been seeing a need for some sort of storage expansion for my needs. So I ended up taking a Samsung T7 portable SSD that I was using for kind of on-the-go video editing. But since I haven't been using it too much, I figured this would be an awesome hard drive to use as expansion storage for the Xbox Series S. One, given that it is a SSD, so the read and write speeds are really good on this drive, and it's got great performance. The storage isn't super high on this one. I only bought a 500 gig drive because I'm not, storing a bulk of videos, or I won't be storing a whole lot of games on it. So the 500 gig works pretty well for me. So I decided to plug in the T7, set it all up, and try that as my external storage. As far as the setup goes for a USB external storage expansion for an Xbox Series S or Series X, the setup is really easy. Basically, you just plug in the device. It's going to ask you if you are using it for media or if you're using it for games. And depending on your choice, it will have some different formatting. So if you use it for media, it's probably something that you can unplug that drive and plug it into your PC and see the videos that's on it and whatever media you're storing. When it's formatted for games, you will be able to take that drive and plug it into other Xboxes that you might have, but it won't be readable by a PC or other device. Then once you select that, it is going to have you rename the drive, so you can just give the drive a particular name. Then once the drive's named, it's going to ask if you want this as your default install location for new games. For me, I selected yes because I had some titles that I wasn't going to be playing too often. I wanted them on that drive and not the internal storage drive on the Xbox Series S that I have. So I set it as my default, and this can be changed pretty quickly on the fly as well. Along the way, you will get some warnings that it will format the drive, so make sure it's a drive that is either fresh and you don't have anything important on it, because it will erase all the data that's currently on the drive. But once it's formatted, it's good to use, and you can start installing to it. So this, like I said, the setup process is very easy for an external USB storage device, like either a SSD or a regular external hard drive that you're using. I don't know what the setup is like for the expansion cards from Seagate. That is the proprietary SSDs that they're using, that Xbox and Seagate have partnered in, but I don't know if it has all sorts of formatting options. I would imagine it's a lot more plug and play, where it probably just joins the current storage and doesn't necessarily label itself as a separate storage device, but I could be wrong on that. So I kind of wanted to just give you guys a quick run through on how to set up your new storage device when you do plug it into your Xbox Series S or Series X, as I've actually never had to use any external storage devices on one of my consoles. But as you can see, setup's very easy and pretty straightforward. So now talking about the different storage options available on the market, there are some very notable things when it comes to choosing your storage expansion. If you're choosing the proprietary SSDs, like I said, from Seagate, or if you're going with some sort of external SSD or hard drive that plugs in via USB. There are pros and cons to all of them, and that's what we're going to kind of break down in this video, and make sure you have all the information possible when choosing one. Because there definitely are some limitations when using a regular external hard drive or external SSD that I wasn't aware of until I did go through the process of getting one installed on my system and trying to install certain games on it. So the first drive we're going to touch on is the Xbox Series S/Series X expansion cards from Seagate. This is the proprietary SSD that Seagate and Xbox have paired on and have on the market. So with this drive, this is, in my opinion, this is the absolute best option as far as storage goes if money isn't an option. This drive will get you the fastest speeds when it comes to loading your games and overall best performance, and it does allow you to play any of the new Xbox Series S, Series X optimized titles with no problem at all. Like I said, this is the best storage option if money isn't an option, and in my opinion, I considered purchasing one of these, but just since I don't have a whole lot of titles I'm looking to store, I couldn't justify it, especially too because tacking on an extra $220 to the already $300 I spent on the console is a lot, especially to have in a Series S. And that's where people make the argument that you should just buy a Series X, but not jumping into that, but I really don't see the justification of that because they're just so hard to find at MSRP, but that's for another time. So talking about external SSDs, which is the route that I went using the Samsung T7, there are a wide variety of external SSDs that you can purchase and use as external storage for your Xbox Series S or Series X. And in my opinion, this is probably one of the best well-rounded options because it gives you a pretty good barrier where you get a really good high-performance drive, but also not for as much money as the expansion cards from Seagate. So when it comes to using an external SSD, you're going to have really good read and write speeds compared to a regular external hard drive. So loading your games is going to be a lot faster. If you're making transfers between your internal storage and your external SSD, those transfers are going to be a lot faster than using an external regular hard disk drive. And SSDs right now are relatively affordable. You can find them for a wide variety of prices. I know the 500 gig Samsung T7 I think can be picked up for around $80. So, and getting a terabyte one I believe is around $140. So they're definitely more affordable than going with the Seagate expansion card. But my biggest gripe with using the external SSD like the Samsung T7 or any other SSD on the market is that I didn't realize you can't actually game off of it if you're playing new Series S or Series X optimized titles. It will throw an error message when you try to load one of those games. You are able to install it on there, but you just can't play the game off of your external storage if you're using a external SSD or an external regular hard disk drive. Xbox claims that for the newer titles that you need faster storage to run those games, which in my opinion is kind of sus, as they say, because I'm sure if I was to try and install those games from Steam on my PC, it probably wouldn't question what hard drive I put it on, but hey, it is what it is, and it's kind of something that Xbox is getting to push people into buying either an expansion card or maybe the Series X or something of that nature. So like I said, you can install the new Series X or Series S optimized titles onto your external hard drive, but the only thing is you can't play it off there. It'll ask you to transfer it to the internal storage on your Xbox, which in the case of the external SSD like the T7 that I chose and probably many others out there, the transfer, once you have the game installed on that drive, to transfer it over to your internal storage on your Xbox is actually very fast. And if you don't have a great internet connection where you, instead of just downloading it, the transfer speeds are going to be a lot faster going from the already installed drive to internal storage opposed to just re-downloading the game. So a little bit of a pain, and that is definitely something to consider when you are choosing an expansion storage device for your next gen Xbox. So lastly, we're going to talk about the regular old external hard drive. So similar to the SSD in a way, this will connect to your Xbox Series S or Series X via USB, but instead of being a solid state hard drive, these are just regular hard drives where they have a spinning disk on the inside. There are pros and there are cons when it comes to using these. The pros being that these are extremely affordable and you can usually buy a very high amount of storage per dollar. I think I've seen like 4 terabyte, 5 terabyte models going for around $100, $120. And of course, there probably is the biggest variety on the market of external hard drives, so it's definitely an option. The cons are going to be that your read and write speeds won't be as good as an external SSD and not nearly as good as the expansion cards, and you're going to run into the same issue with this drive as you will the external SSD, where you can't run the Series S and Series X optimized titles off of it. But you can run some older games and titles that don't require that, but opposed to the Samsung T7 that I'm using or another external SSD like that, your read and write speeds won't be as good, so your load times are going to take a little bit longer. And then if you are transferring between your internal storage on your Xbox and the external drive, it's going to take a little bit longer using one of these. Alright guys, that's going to wrap up this video. I really just wanted to make this video to kind of go over the different storage options and the pros and cons, along with doing a tutorial on how to install your new external storage device when it comes to a device that hooks up via USB to your Xbox Series S or Series X. So my final thoughts and recommendation to you, if you're in the same boat as me where you might have an Xbox Series S and storage is starting to become a little bit of an issue, or it's something that you're thinking ahead on where you're going to need some sort of expansion, I recommend going the route of the external SSD. This will give you some really good high performance fast storage, and I recommend taking any games that are a little bit older that can be played off an external storage device, taking those games off of your internal storage on your Series S and putting them on that external SSD, and saving all that internal storage on the Xbox Series S or Series X for the new optimized titles. So for me, I'm going to be storing some of my older games that I still like to play, like Killing Floor, Battlefield 4, maybe like Red Dead Redemption. I'm pretty sure that can be played off an external drive. And then I'm going to be saving the internal space for newer titles like Halo Infinite, Battlefield 2042. Probably the newer Forza titles are going to be Series X and Series S optimized. So I'm going to save the internal storage for the newer titles and then kind of have my older titles stored on the external SSD. So that's my biggest recommendation, and you can definitely save a lot of money doing it that way opposed to forking out the $220 for the external expansion card, which I considered, but I wanted to test out this theory with the Samsung T7 that I had around, and so far I find that it works really well. That's it for this video, guys. Thanks for checking this one out. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like on it, and if you want to see more tech related videos like this one, be sure to subscribe. As always, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.